time and weight and motion and all these things that we take for granted in this reality are only information decoded by the brain. And the brain is all operating in this band of frequencies of five senses. Once you leave, what do these near-death experiences say? Suddenly, there was this massive expansion of consciousness. I could see past, present, and future in the same now. I was aware of multiple realities in the same now. Why? Because the state of awareness that is the true eternal I, no form, no body, just awareness, has been released from the body's focus of attention. It's like being released from the computer. And then that awareness, depending on its vibrational state, which comes from its perceptual state, the two are absolutely connected, then goes and explores another dimension of reality outside of this body.
What dimension is that? What reality is that? What happens when the soul leaves, let's say, this realm?
It's all to do with frequency. This is why Albert Einstein said, all you've got to do is get the frequency you want, and then you'll get what that frequency represents.
So you can decide.
Well, yeah, but it comes from your perception. I mean, I go into this in the talks and in the books in detail. I go into it in the talks. It's really important. If you are in a state of depression or a state of anger or a state of hatred, these things are represented by frequencies. If you're in a state of joy and empathy and love in its various forms, then you are in a high frequency because your emotional, mental, perceptual state dictates your frequency. And your frequency dictates, and how expanded it is, and the nature of the frequency dictates what you connect with. So if you say I self-identify with being this, what I call point of attention with an infinite awareness, that you are infinite awareness, all that is, has been, and ever can be, all possibility, having an experience, then that perceptual state will connect you with the greater awareness, the scientists call the quantum field of possibility and probability, in a much more expanded way. So you have then, therefore, the potential to manifest, decode out of that potential and possibility enormously greater.
And steer your own the direction you want to go.
Yeah, but what you'll do is you will be able to therefore manifest possibilities in your life and means of creation in your life on a much more expanded way than someone who is in a perceptual state that says, I'm little me, I've got no power, I have to look up to them because they know what they're doing and I don't. That is a very narrow, very low frequency perceptual state. So you will interact with this field of possibility and probability in that frequency band that is represented by your limited state of perception and limited state of self-identity. Thus, what you will create is another self-fulfilling prophecy, just like the expanded state of awareness, and that self-fulfilling prophecy will be little me perception becomes little me life, little me I have no power experience.
But you also talk about we are living in a matrix. So if a lot of people who died or were, well, declared dead after an accident or something and saw their own body, they all say practically the same thing, that they went to this tunnel of light, and they went into this great white light frequency. And if they were a Christian, they saw Jesus or Muhammad or Buddha or whatever, but it was a feeling of bliss, something incredible. And then they could choose to reincarnate again and go back in another body on Earth. Is that like a reincarnation recycling factory, as some people are talking about now, like a fake kind of keeping souls in the matrix?
Well, I have read about this, and I have written about this, and I've read accounts of people about their experiences. And it's my conclusion over many years that reincarnation is a trap. It's not that it doesn't exist, although I don't think it's quite the same as it's explained. It's a bit more subtle, maybe, but I do think it's a trap. And you see, when I was writing my last book, Everything You Need to Know But Have Never Been Told, I looked at when reincarnation began, when it became a concept. And it became a concept within only a few thousand years. And as I write in other books and I talk about in the talks, there's very clearly, this has come from, mainstream academics, there's very clearly a point about 6,000 years ago, 4,000 BC, when humanity changed dramatically. It changed dramatically in a way that cannot be explained by what they call evolutionary explanations that take what we call time. I keep saying what we call and all these things because we literally do live in a world that is nothing like we think it is. But reincarnation has come in relatively recent times after this transformation of human consciousness, which took us basically from a much more expanded view that we are connected to everything into the five senses. One cultural historian who I quote in the books called that point 6,000 years ago the Great Change. The greatest change that has been established that humanity went through. There was the academic who wrote the book The Fall about this, called Steve Taylor from Leeds University, he calls it the new psyche. A new psyche came to replace the old psyche.
Just a couple of thousand
years This would have been 6,000 years ago that this started, and it happened very quickly. So within this period of 6,000 years, I've always had, well, since I started to understand this stuff, I've been very wary about it, because there was some kind of manipulative force started to impose itself in this period, probably before, but certainly in 6,000 years. So you look at reincarnation, and it comes out of the East, which is where this force very much located for at least at one point. And out of this force came the religions. See, out of Asia came Hinduism and many other religions, and another center for this force, this takeover, was the Middle East. And so you had Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all coming out of there. The religions came out of the centers of manipulation.
But they all want the same thing. They all want you to go to heaven or the light or whatever. And they all want you to put you in the same place.
Yeah, and they also want you to believe that all you have to understand to know the world and yourself and everything you need to know is within the cover of books. And as I've written before, these religions appear to be different, but it's actually the same program, just under different names. I go to church, a person tells me what God wants and what will happen if I don't.
But the same thing in spirituality, New Age, like going to the light.
Yeah, all that stuff. So
if that's a trap.
If you leave the body in a perceptual state because of what's the program you've taken on, and you fiercely have belief systems which are driving your perception, then you can be caught in this trap. Now, what do they say in the Eastern religions with reincarnation? You have to keep having experiences on Earth to grow to a point, and what do they call it? Basically a vibrational frequency point where you can leave and break out of the reincarnation.